Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart, where we have conversations with experts and share personal stories to help navigate the complexities of mental health with compassion and empathy. Today, we're talking about something that doesn't get enough attention: how chronic illness and mental health are deeply connected. If you live with a chronic condition, you already know it's more than just physical symptoms. The exhaustion, the unpredictability, the constant battle with pain or fatigue, it can take a serious toll on your mental well-being. And on top of that, many people dealing with chronic illness also have to deal with medical gaslighting, lack of understanding from friends or family, and the frustration of feeling like their body is working against them. Studies show that people with chronic illnesses are more likely to experience anxiety and depression, and honestly, that's not surprising. When you're constantly managing symptoms, struggling with doctors who may not listen, or having to explain over and over again why you can't just push through, it really wears you down. Even the logistics of dealing with insurance, medications, and doctor's visits can add another layer of stress. That's why this conversation is so important. My guest today, Blanca Rodriguez, knows this struggle firsthand. She's an entrepreneur, a holistic life coach, and a massage therapist for both humans and animals. She's also someone who has lived through trauma, chronic illness, and mental health struggles. Her journey has been anything but easy, but she's found ways to take back control of her life and help others do the same. In this episode, Blanca opens up about what it was like growing up with trauma, how chronic illness shaped her mental health, and the realities of trying to heal while still dealing with everyday responsibilities. She also talks about the power of self-forgiveness, breaking generational cycles, and why seeking support is a game changer. This is a raw, real conversation with no sugarcoating, just honest talk about the struggles so many people face but don't always feel comfortable discussing. If you've ever felt like no one understands what you're going through, I hope this conversation helps. Let's get into it. Get that looking good. Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I am so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're tuning in, and I'm really excited for our conversation tonight. We do have a guest. I am joined tonight by Blanca Rodriguez, and I will introduce her in just a moment. But Blanca, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us here.
Thank you so much for having me. What a joy it is to be here, definitely.
Absolutely. So our topic tonight is going to be chronic illness and mental health. If you have a question about anything that we're talking about, if you have a question for our guest, feel free to pop that in. I'm going to open up a question queue right now. So if you have anything you want to ask about, pop it into the chat. We'll make sure that it gets asked. And then also, if you are looking to connect with Blanca, I have several different websites and social links. I'll go ahead and post those as well. So if you are looking to connect, feel free to do that. And you know what I am about to say, because this is something that I say all the time, but engagement is key. So if you go and you give her a follow, go like a couple of her posts wherever you are. Go read through a couple of them, like a couple of them. That's what really gets everybody the boost, if you will, more than just following. So I'll introduce Blanca, and then we'll kind of get rolling through here. But Blanca is the owner and CEO of Wounded Healer, LLC. She has been a licensed massage therapist for 18 years, and she's a certified canine massage therapist for 8 years, which we were talking about a little bit ahead of time. I think that's really interesting. She's also a fitness instructor for 55 plus individuals and Zumba and dance teaching for 30 plus years. She's an Amazon best-selling book co-author, a holistic life coach, informational, motivational, and inspirational speaker. Blanca is a member and mentor at the American Massage Therapy Association, a member, mentor, and vice president of public relations at Talking Heads of Stewart Toastmasters, a member of Treasure Coast Advanced Toastmasters, a member, mentor, and vice president of public relations at Puerto Rico Toastmasters Club, which that's a line right there. That's a lot of things going on. In addition to that, though, she also volunteers with the Pet Cottage in Jupiter, Florida, a platform that gives permanent housing to senior dogs that have lost their human companion due to death or deployment. The Inner Truth Project in Port St. Lucie, Florida, which focuses on helping survivors of sexual violence, and the Humane Society of St. Lucie County, which is a no-kill animal shelter. So that's a lot. Like, that is a full plate right there, y'all. But we are talking tonight specifically about chronic illness and mental health, and I'm really excited to get into this because there's some very interesting ties that I want to talk about. Before we get into that, though, Blanca, what do you enjoy doing when you're not busy doing all of this myriad of things that I just listed?
Well, when I am not wearing all the hats that I love to wear, actually, I enjoy the outdoors. I live close to the shore here in Southeast Florida, so I enjoy tremendously sunrises. I go look at the sunrise as many times as I possibly can, and I do a lot of meditation, prayer, stretching, and or just plain to just sit there and listen to the waves, which have this powerful calming effect. I enjoy the outdoors. I've been a very outdoor person since I was a little girl. So that is like my favorite thing to do besides listening to music and watching documentaries and all that geeky stuff. But the outdoors is it's like my most favorite thing to do, definitely.
I I am so glad you brought up kind of that healing power that being next to the ocean has, because that is something that I feel in my soul. I try to go to the ocean at least once a year because those just the sound of those waves crashing, it's like it's healing, I think, really truly. Maybe not for everyone, but for me. For sure. And I could just sit there all day, book in hand, and just listen to those waves and be perfectly content, perfectly happy. It's lovely. So I totally understand what you mean by that. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. It's just so soothing. And this is
Hmm.
the thing. I will go to a shore. It doesn't matter if it's cloudy, if it's rainy, if it's sunny. I will just go at least for a little bit and just listen to the soothing sounds of the ocean. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I traveled a while back. I traveled to Virginia Beach, but it was in kind of the winter time. And that's the best time to go if you're not looking to get your toes into the water because you can get the oceanfront hotels for super cheap. And so I was traveling for
Oh,
work,
that's great.
but in the evening I would step out onto the balcony and you could just hear those waves coming in, even though it was, back
That's
off
so
the beach a
good.
little bit. You could hear them coming
Mhm.
in and it was cold, so I had to put on a jacket, but oh, it was lovely. It's like just hearing
Oh.
that sound is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Absolutely. I love the cold weather and well, here in Florida it doesn't get as cold as everywhere else, but it does get cold. It does go to the 50s, and when you are in front of the ocean it feels even colder. I love to do the beach and sunrises when it's cold. I put a
Mm.
jacket on, and it's typical Florida winter that you have a jacket on but you're barefooted. So yes,
Uh-huh.
we love to do that. I love to do that. It's one of my favorite things to do in Florida winter.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as we've talked about, your career spans many, many areas. So, massage therapy and fitness instruction and holistic life coaching and canine massage therapy. What
Mhm.
inspired you to pursue this very unique and very diverse path?
Yes, well, this path, it took me many years in the making. When I became a licensed massage therapist for my beloved humans, it is our obligation that to keep our licensing, we have to do continuing education courses
Mm-hmm.
as long as we are practicing massage therapists, which I absolutely love because I'm in student mode all the time and I'm learning something new, and it's a wonderful thing. I really, really value that tremendously. And one of the things that I wanted to do was some other kind of massage, and then by the grace of God, I saw in a magazine, I was reading about horse massage therapy, equine massage therapy. It's like, wow, that sounds interesting. Wow. Horses are really big and
Yeah.
pretty, it can be a pretty intimidating situation. And I say, oh man, I wish I could do something else. And then by the grace of God, here we go again. I find a school for canine massage therapy here in the state of Florida on the West Coast, and I jumped into the opportunity because I have always been an animal lover. Since I was a little girl, I've been surrounded by animals. And ever since I was a little girl, I've been a helper. I come from a family that everybody will help everybody. My father was a successful businessman, and he will always send money to Puerto Rico. I am a Puerto Rican from New York City. My father went to New York City in search for the American dream. He conquered it. He was a very successful businessman, and he will always be sending money to his parents, to his family, to his friends, and that giving I mean, he was an abundant man that will give back a lot to the
Mm.
community. He was loved by a lot of people, and definitely my mother was another person that it really resonated with me because I saw this since I was a little girl, that helping others, it is really a good thing. And this was
Mm.
very instilled in me from a very young age. And as I kept on going into my adulthood, I always wanted to do something that had to do with helping people in some way or form. I was a secretary for a long time. I was a waitress for a long time. And it was, yeah, it's an industry of helping, but I wanted something more, something that was more hands-on, helping others feeling better. And that's when I found a wonderful school for massage therapy in Orlando when I moved to the US, and I jumped into the opportunity. I went back to school for massage therapy at age 38. So to all our listeners and viewers, please don't let age stop you from what you want to do. And after that, years later, I've been a canine massage therapist only 8 years. So I mean, I'm 59 right now. So in my 50s, I went back to school to get certified as a canine massage therapist. And then after that, 4 years ago, I went back to school to become a holistic life coach. So the learning never ends. And this was like one thing kept on coming together with the other and the other and the other, and they all intertwine into all of the services that I provide as the wounded healer that I am.
I love that. It sounds like you really had that just from being a kid and growing up and finding your path. And the fact that you
Absolutely.
brought up kind of you went back to school at 38. There's a great I guess it's an art project, but there's a great project. It's a great website where you can enter whatever age you are or an age you're interested in being someday, and hit the button that will display the accomplishments that other people have done at that age. So, like, if you go in there and you type in that you want to see what people did at 38, it'll say, so and so. Let's see. At age 38, poet Robert Frost sold his farm and used the proceeds to move to England, where he could devote himself primarily to writing. So he
That's
didn't even start
amazing.
writing until 38, and it just lists all these
Imagine that.
different things that people did at that age. So I'll share a link to that in the chat, and y'all feel free to check that out, because it is something that I hear people say a lot, like, I've wasted so much time in my life. And
Hmm.
you've gotten experience, you've gotten all of these things that you've done under your belt, and now you can accomplish what you were
Hmm.
supposed to accomplish at this age. And it doesn't have to be, oh, I should have done this when I was 13. I should have started writing when I was
Very true.
13 or
Very
whatever.
true.
You can start writing when you're 38. Doesn't matter. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I wrote my chapter of my book when I was 52 years old. So I mean, you see, there's no age range to
hmm
do whatever you want to do in life, definitely.
yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Do you have a true crime story that fascinates you?
I love Agatha Christie's
Mm.
theme crime stories, and my favorite movie is Death on the Nile. I always love mysteries, and everybody is a suspect, but only one person does it, or two people did it. And since I was a little kid, I always was like drawn by Agatha Christie. Definitely.
Yeah,
Very interesting. Yeah. Hmm.
I love that. I'll post a link to her kind of her what just her list of works for those who are interested,
Oh yeah.
and also
Pretty
to that
extensive.
movie.
Yep.
as well. Have you read,
Mhm.
there's a book about Agatha Christie, kind of like historical fiction a little bit because we don't know all of the mystery around
Mhm.
her disappearance and everything. But I think it was called The Christie Affair. Have you read that book? I highly recommend it if you
No,
haven't.
I haven't. Oh my
It's
God, I am
wonderful.
going to write it down.
Yeah, let me see who wrote that one. I know I read it a while back, but I think it's called A Christie Affair, and it's really Nina de Gramont. So it's I highly
Okay.
recommend it. It was wonderful, a wonderful read. And like I said,
Oh
they
my
had to
God, I am going to
fictionalize,
buy
make
it.
up a lot of
Thank you.
things, but it has to do
Yeah.
with her, with part of her life. So I do recommend it.
Yes,
It's good.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Love that.
Yeah, but her Agatha Christie's written a lot of books that a lot of people really love. So
Hmm.
that's it's a good one.
Yes, and
I
there's
love
many there's many movies from like back in the
yes.
day that
Yeah.
it was like one after the other, and I was
Hmm.
fascinated with all of these movies. There's a couple of remakes now, but oh my God, I highly recommend all of them. Super interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well,
Hmm.
I want to get
Hmm.
into kind of our topic in a little bit of a different way. So, your website is Wounded Healer, and I just would love to know a little bit more about that phrase, Wounded Healer. What does that mean to you, and how has that concept shaped your journey?
Yes, I was invited to this amazing podcast that is called The Journey. And the gentleman, the host of this podcast, this was a little over a year ago, he named our episode, the episode with me, The Journey of a Wounded Healer. And I found
Mm,
it fascinating. And I said, you know what? A wounded healer really resonates with me, with my experience in life more than I even knew. And I said to myself, that is what I want my business to be named. And I took it from there. Wounded healers, we are people that we embrace the dark experiences that we had
mm,
in life, and we use it as fuel to help others improve their quality of life, to help others with their journeys, no matter how hard they are, because we have been there too. So people can really relate, and we can relate to our people, to our clients, to my patients, to even my people that I do fitness with. I can relate and engage with them in a more profound way because I know exactly where they come from because I've been there. So
mm-hmm.
this is why I became the wounded healer. And wounded healers, it dates from Greek mythology. Actually, there is a legend of the centurion that he was hurt by an arrow and he became a wounded healer. So it dates back from a very long time ago, and even in Peruvian culture, shamans are called wounded healers as well. So it's a very powerful term that it goes through to different cultures with different meanings, but very similar at the same time. Very interesting. Hmm.
Yeah. And that resonates with me quite a bit because that's part of what inspired me to start this podcast was just I went through some shit and I would love it if other people didn't have to go through what I went through alone. And so
Hmm.
it's kind of one of
Yeah.
those things. It's like everyone from every experience takes something different. Someone else could go through the exact same situation that I went through and take and do something totally different with it. But my kind of response and one of the things that I took out of the things that I've been through has just been I want to help other people with this and I want to take what I've been through and really kind of put that out there in the world and do what I can to make sure that
Hmm.
other people don't feel the same things that I felt. And so it's
Hmm.
always neat to see what someone will go through and then how they react to it and how they're able to respond and how they're able to incorporate that into their lives. Or if they don't want to
Hmm.
incorporate, anything from it and they want to just survive through it, that's totally valid too. I'm not trying to imply that you should always capitalize on trauma, but it is something that I see
Right.
a lot of
Hmm.
people do a very
Hmm.
similar thing to what you have done and just take that and really run with it and say like this built me, and this is something that I want to make sure serves me now that I'm able, now that I'm on the other
Absolutely.
side of it.
Yes, absolutely. And I cannot agree with you more because I was in both sides of the story. I endured decades of silence, of not seeking help, of not seeking support
Mm,
because I thought I was not worthy enough to even bother anybody with what I really needed to say and to get the help that I so very much deserved and needed
yeah.
since I was a little girl when with the tragic passing of my father, and then my mother falling into chronic untreated mental illness. This was back in the 70s, the years where talking about mental health and mental illness was total taboo. It was
Mm-hmm.
demonized. You would just not talk about that because basically if you will admit to any kind of mental illness, your life was basically over. They
Yeah.
will give you a pill, and it was a horse tranquilizer that it was a one pill fix everything. And that those were the years when my mother really got into a deep depression because of my father's death, and she never recovered from it. And my mother had very violent tendencies, and
Mm,
it was the up of the up and the down of the down. There was never a happy medium. It was very inconsistent, unstable, a very unsafe environment in many ways. But we live, we learn, we grow. But my silence, I thought that, I mean, being in that vicious circle that I was with my silence and being silent and quiet about everything, because I was indoctrinated that way,
yeah.
starting with the tragic passing of my father. My father was killed in his jewelry store in New York City,
Mm,
and all everything I heard was, "Shh, you don't talk about the dead. That hurts too much. Don't talk about the dead." And in my 8-year old mind, I understood that since the worst thing that happened to me was the passing of my father, okay, I cannot talk about anything bad. And
mm-hmm.
it would took me in a downhill spiral for a very long time until it was time for a change, and change did happen, and I'm grateful for it. I'm still here because of that.
Yeah. 8 years old is
Yeah.
so young to go through something so tragic. And I know that,
Hmm.
since then you've really survived and even thrived in life, around, in spite of chronic mental illnesses. So, what helped
Hmm.
you find the will, even though you weren't supposed to be talking about it, find the will to just keep moving forward during those times?
You know what? This is the ironies of life when it comes to being with such an important figure, and the only figure that I had, which was my mother.
Mm,
My mother will always say, you keep on moving, you keep on moving, you keep on going, you keep on going, coming from a woman that she had chronic untreated mental illness. She kept on going to the best of her ability. And when she will keep on saying that over and over and over, you keep on going, you keep on moving, you just don't stop, you keep on moving. And it's ironic that the one person that that, I mean, I got a lot of childhood trauma because of her behaviors, because of the death of my father, how it was dealt with, how it was not dealt with, and coming from her and her batshit crazy. It's ironic that it came from her. My
yeah.
will to keep on going, to keep on moving, to keep on thriving, to keep on going no matter what. Because my mother came from extreme poverty. My
Mm,
mom was malnourished, abandoned, neglected. She was the middle kid of 10 brothers and sisters,
wow.
with a mother that she was illiterate, and then she lost her father at a very young age. She used to go barefooted to school, and my mother will tell us these stories, and she did comply when she tells us. It's like, since I was young, I wanted to have kids, but I promised myself that my kids will never go through what I went through. She complied because I have never experienced in my entire life what she did. So
Hmm.
that will and that resiliency, that persistence, yeah, it came from her, and I cannot be more grateful to her about that, and definitely to my father as well. that he went from a school teacher to be a very successful business owner. He was not done just by being a school teacher in Puerto Rico. He decided to take a leap of faith and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to conquer this and I'm going to make it work. And he was a workaholic, but he conquered the American dream. And that is something that I highly value and embrace from him, even though he lasted so little in my life,
Mm-hmm.
he was gone at age 43, gone too soon. But these are things that are never forgotten. So for those people out there that say, oh, the kid is too small, they don't understand, you need to wake up because the kid understands and absorbs everything
Yeah.
from their surroundings. So please be aware of that.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, some of the most lasting responses and ways that we react to things can really come from childhood, and it's because of what you
Absolutely.
experienced in childhood. And that's not always
Hmm.
it's not always something super tragic or super traumatic or anything. It's just how you were raised, even at a very young age,
Hmm.
impacts you well into adulthood, unless you're
Absolutely.
actively working to undo some of the harms that were done, maybe with
Hmm.
totally good intentions. Yeah, that it totally lasts. Absolutely. Kids are absorbing, they are sponges, they are there, they are seeing you, they are hearing you, they are affected by what's going on around them.
Oh yeah, they feel absolutely everything that is going on. Hmm.
Yes, yes. So, what toll does chronic illness take on your mental health?
Definitely, it took a great toll. My mother's mental illness, and she wasn't the only one in my family who had mental illness. I had aunties and uncles that had chronic mental illnesses, and they were so-called treated. But back in those days, it was horse tranquilizer. They will either
Yeah.
become zombies and be sleeping 18 hours a day, or they will be batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when it will get really, really difficult, really dark moments because my mother in her own crazy, she would take us little kids to the mental institution to visit an uncle that he
Mm.
was hospitalized in the mental institution, and us little kids, we will go to the psychiatric ward to visit him. That is something that I will never forget. It's like I remember it like it was yesterday, and I
Mm-hmm.
was a little 9-year-old girl.
Yeah.
That's how terrified. That's one of those things that it really can affect you profoundly throughout life. That's how terrified I was. And the lasting effect that I had with living around this environment definitely was self-doubt, low
Mm.
self-esteem, low self-worth, self-destructive patterns. I was with this PTSD because my mother was a hoarder as well, and in her hoarding, the house was invaded with roaches. So
Yeah.
I know that I have tremendous PTSD when it comes to roaches. I live in a very clean environment with fumigators coming in all the time because I know exactly what triggers me if I see
Yeah.
a roach in my house. And it's not that I'm going to scream and go into a frenzy, but when I see many roaches, I know exactly what is the history with roaches, but that's the story for another day. And I
Mm.
said, not when there's one, there's 20 hidden.
Yeah.
So no,
Oh
I
yeah.
cannot deal with this. So that is just one of these things. My mother's hoarding got me into a tremendous PTSD, and her destructive patterns with us, her violence with us. She was a
Mm.
screamer. She would hit us. I experienced the guava stick. The guava stick is the most burning stick I ever experienced when I got beat up.
Mm.
And the mango tree stick and any stick, the slipper, what we call la chancleta. Oh, that slipper will be. Anything that she would have in her hands, and if she was pissed off, and I would, and I. This is the thing. I would answer back and I will talk back. That
Mm.
is when I really got in trouble. I think I was the one who got beat up more than any of my siblings because my siblings will shut up and be very scared. I was fed up with her all of the time.
Yeah.
But this came from my father's death, and her absence in my life when I needed her the most. But
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm a full-blown adult, I understand exactly where things come. And definitely, forgiveness is really the heart of the matter. That is something that it needs to happen in order for us to move on for all of these traumatic experiences. But definitely, my mother definitely was the biggest causer of my childhood trauma,
Yeah.
without a doubt, because she was dealing with her own demons, and she didn't know how to deal with three siblings and her alone, being a widow, losing her husband in such a violent way. So definitely it was the violence of how I lost my father, the
Mm.
violence of my mother that was the one that stayed behind, and living around people with mental illnesses left and right and left and right, extremely unstable environment. All my siblings and I, well, all of us three grew up around it, and it definitely impacted us in very different ways. But me, as being the youngest of three, my word was not valid for anything. My
Mm.
word was worth nothing. I was a little kid. You shut up, you talk when the chickens pee, and you just to your room. And if you're gonna say something, I'm gonna bring that stick, and you're gonna see what's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
it was, around that kind of environment. And yes, when my mother was in a good mood, she was a very loving person. She took care of us, especially when we were sick. She would never leave our side. She was very, very gentle and very caring, but it was always temporary. It was not, it was always short lived, the loving times. And she was a very adventurous woman. We went to many places. We traveled a lot. We would go to camping. So that good side of her really did shine. But unfortunately for her, it was overshadowed
Yeah.
by her illness. Very, very, it's very, very sad. Very sad, definitely.
Yeah. You mentioned that you and your siblings had very different reactions. Did some of that go into adulthood as well? Do you each have kind of the different ways that you've dealt with it as adults? Can you give some examples of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In my case, my silence and my low self-esteem, low self-worth,
Mm.
it really pushed me to self-destructive patterns. I did a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol. I was jumping from person to person. I was looking for validation on anything and everything with anybody. I was looking for a figure that was more stable in my life. I was looking for stability in my life because I didn't experience that kind of emotional stability when it came to a male figure, specifically a male figure.
Mm.
I was really yearning for that. And I definitely got into the worst possible relationships because I was repeating the generational trauma of violence. So, specifically with the father of my kids and ex-partner, he was a drug addict. He experienced tragedy. His brother hung in himself, and he was a
Mm.
drug addict. And with drug any kind of a drug addiction and alcohol addiction, the root cause of the addiction is not really the addiction. It's something much more profound than that. And although, in my case, and thousands more cases that I do know up close and personal, it is all trying to numb the pain and
Mm-hmm.
trying to forget at all costs. Let me numb the pain and let me not think about it. Let me not think about it. And that is definitely most of the time the root cause of any kind of addiction. But I was not only with addiction to drugs and alcohol, I was addicted to violent relationships
Mm.
because I was repeating this repetitive habit. And habits are difficult to let go of, but they're not impossible to let go of. And the same way we let go of a habit, we can build new habits with hard work and dedication, of course, getting out of our comfort zones. Of course, I could have easily been the statistic of the battered woman that was killed by her ex-partner and two
Mm-hmm.
kids were left alone. I could have easily OD'd and two kids were left alone as well, with a father that was a drug addict himself. He died, he went into full organ failure at age 48, but it was all drug related, and he just kept on substituting one drug drug with the other and the other and the other. When he
Mm-hmm.
couldn't take cocaine, he will take crack. When he couldn't take crack, he took booze. When he couldn't take booze because her kidneys were not functioning anymore, then he relied on the last addiction that it was opioids. Opioids is the biggest
Mm-hmm.
pandemic there is right
Yeah.
now, and he was just another case, another number of opioids what did on the long run, and he died at age 48.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't look 48, he looked 98. So that's how deteriorated this poor soul was. And definitely, we exercise a lot of forgiveness to each other, and that felt like freedom to me,
Mm-hmm.
because forgiveness really is the heart of the matter. When there is forgiveness from the heart, not forgiveness from the mouth, because anybody can say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," but if you don't mean it, it's worth nothing. It's
Yeah.
nothing. It's shit. It's nothing. But when you really mean it and you move on and you really exercise change, that is when forgiveness is for real. And definitely is something that once I started really practicing forgiveness, forgiving myself for a start, for all the dark seasons that I endured, for everything that I self-inflicted on my own. Nobody helped me. I did it all on my own. When I finally put my pants on my place and I said, okay, it's time for me to stop being everybody's victim and be responsible for my actions. That's when real change happened. And yeah, it was hard, but not impossible. And it feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could go back and give a piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Be patient. Don't do it alone.
Mm,
Don't do it alone. Get support. It's always there. Go to your favorite people, your favorite uncle, your favorite auntie. I know who those two were. I mean, they're not in this world anymore, but I know exactly which auntie and which uncle I would have gone to for
mm-hmm.
help. So yes, definitely to that little 8-year-old girl when that she lost her father, and a year later she was sexually abused, and she kept silent and silent and silent. I definitely will tell to that girl, don't do it alone. Go to Uncle Junior and Auntie Lianel. Go to those two. They will be there for you no matter what.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's really common to feel like you have to go it alone. It's really common to feel like you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
burden other people. It's really common to feel like
Right.
other people you're gonna admit to what you've gone through, and they're gonna find a way to make it your fault, or
Yeah.
they're gonna somehow take the other person's side, or there's all kinds of things that go through your head. But honestly, like,
Mm-hmm.
not going through things alone is something that is so hard to start to understand. But then once you do, it's like, why did I not do this sooner? Why did I not reach out sooner? It could have been,
Right.
it just helps you
Mm-hmm.
so much. But it is really hard to take that first step and to say, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
talk to my favorite uncle. I am going to talk to my favorite aunt about this and not go through it
Mm-hmm.
alone, for sure.
Yeah, and once we do that first step of seeking support and actually receiving it and actually having that profound conversation that has been waiting decades in the making, it's a beautiful experience. And definitely when I experienced that for the first time, I never looked back. I said, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I tried to be functional, so-called functional. I was like, I had a facade that
Mm.
I had my stuff together, that I knew exactly what I was doing. And it was a facade because in the deepest of my soul, I was just a lost soul with a broken heart for a very long time. I just will numb myself to it, obviously, with everything that I did. But once I found that support, I never stopped. After that, I went to counselors, psychotherapists, group counseling. I will go to groups. I will go to meditation groups. I went to yoga groups. Oh my God, the whole, I mean, everything I could put my hands on when it came to support and videos. And I mean, back in that day, the internet was not as powerful as it is now, but the beginnings of Google were really, really helpful. YouTube, oh my goodness,
Hmm.
YouTube is a monster and it's so powerful. And to this day, when I am feeling a little blessed, like, oh, I'm gonna go do this meditation on YouTube. This is really gonna help me, and it really does. It's an excellent source, powerful source of information. Everybody should use it,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Hmm.
Hey, 488, how are you today? We are talking about chronic illness and mental health tonight. But Blanca, you've mentioned forgiveness a couple of times, so it really seems to be a core value for you. How has forgiveness played a role in your healing, and how do you help guide others who maybe are resisting that idea? How do you help guide them towards it?
Definitely in my relationship with my mother, that was such a difficult relationship, full of like ups and downs, more downs than ups. It was very hard for me to forgive her because she will say I'm sorry, but she will keep on repeating the same pattern
Right.
over and over and over. And I was like, what the hell are you telling me I'm sorry when you're still doing the same crap on me? And here we go again, when I was blaming her and I was being her victim. And when I decided to stop being her victim and take matters on my own hands and do some growing the F up that I truly, really needed, that's when I started to see my life from a different lens. And to me, forgiveness started with me,
Hmm.
from me, myself, and I. It was time for me to stop blaming the world for my calamities and my horrible actions. Take, take responsibility for what I have done in my life and accept that change is possible only if I pursue it with everything I am. And the first thing I really needed to do was exercising some forgiveness for my actions, for doing all the things that I did to myself and to others along the way. And then after that, everything just started really falling into place, because when we change our mindset, our lives really do change. I follow this inspirational speaker. He's very old school. His name was Jim Rohn, and he used to say, life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. And that had a profound effect in me till this day. And when I'm wobbly, when I feel weak, I said, okay, let me remember the words of this powerful man, because they're absolutely true. And when my mother stepped forward, she has advanced stages of dementia right now. She's 93 years old. She's an old lady. She is like really going downhill. And I go to Puerto Rico to visit, to take care of her. I do it from the eyes of compassion, of empathy, of love, of forgiveness, definitely, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to see her eye to eye
Yeah.
otherwise, and I wouldn't be able to give from the heart. And when the one of the last times that she asked for forgiveness, she was a tired woman entering into full dementia. And I told my mother, it's okay, Mom. I forgive you, and I hope you forgive me as well. And definitely that was a game changer for me, because the wounds are not our fault, but the healing is our responsibility. We are responsible for what we want to do in this life, to step into our power, to make things better for us. And once we make things better for us, the rest will follow. It's unavoidable. And this is why forgiveness for me is so powerful. It's
Mm.
so liberating. It takes you to a whole different world. You will see things from such a different perspective. It's an incredible journey from being this woman that I wouldn't forgive my mother. In my 20s, I stopped talking to my mother for years. I mean, in my whole 20s, I hardly talked to my mother. We had a horrible relationship. And every time I will see her, we will go into a fight. It's like, okay, I guess I'll see you in another year. And that was my life with her, seeing each other once a year, once every 2 years. And I was very distant. This was the time, but there was no cell phones, there was no texting, there was
Mm-hmm.
none of that. It was a house phone, and that's it. Or letters written on paper. Imagine that, how old school. Yes, that's where I come from. So yeah, when somebody as important as a female figure, your mother figure, that there was so many scars, so many wounds going on in there, one after the other, the other. And once I understood more where she was coming from, what her experience was, I really started to open up my mind and my heart to say, wow, she did the best that she could with
Mm-hmm.
the little that she had. And still, she instilled in us being hardworking people. Still, she really taught us to keep on going, to you persist and you keep on going and going and going, and you're not going to give up. That was like all my mother, because my father, he lasted a very, very short time in our lives. So that
Yeah.
was all my mother. And it's something to be appreciated, and I value it, and I honor her tremendously to this day. So this is the story of my mother and I being in a horrific relationship for so many decades, and then turning it around, exercising forgiveness from the heart, and the rest really did follow. And it's sad, because with my mother, I went back in August to Puerto Rico to take care of her. And I looked at her in that hospital bed in the house, and she hardly speaks anymore. And I said, wow, wow, you know so little of who I really
Mm-hmm.
am. And these are lessons that I take very seriously. And I do, and I turn it around. It's like, okay, I learned from my mother to be an open communication mother of my kids. I learned from my mother that if I messed it up with my kids, because I had my own dark seasons and they were directly involved, I learned from my mother to approach each kid and say, hey, I am so sorry for messing it up and fucking you up and
Mm-hmm.
fucking with your head, because I was the loss, but now I am not anymore. And we are here to grow together. And I'm very thankful that I have a beautiful relationship with my kids. Total open communication. We love each other. They are full blown adults. They don't live with me anymore, and they want me in their lives. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
damn, I did something good here. I did
Yeah.
something right. And they're wonderful, wonderful human beings. And definitely I honor them tremendously too. But I learned from my mother's much more than I bargained for. That is
Mm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It is really important to communicate with your kids that, like, hey, I know I messed that up. My bad. I'm really sorry. Here's what
Oh
was
yeah.
going on. Like, that doesn't make it okay, but you need to understand some things around whatever it was. And my bad. Like, I'm human. I am also human. Because
So
it's
true.
if
Hmm.
you will just talk to them, explain what happened, like we said
Hmm.
earlier, they're listening, they hear you, they see you, and they're so much
Oh
more
yeah.
likely to be like, I do forgive you for that, or to at least understand what was going
Hmm.
on. Kids are smarter than you give them credit for. Just communicate. Just
Oh
tell them
yeah.
what's going on, and it's so much better, so
Hmm.
much easier. And then your kids are more likely to continue to talk to you when they are adults. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. You build that foundation, it's worth it. Definitely. It's
yeah.
so worth it. And even if your kids come from a very difficult situation like they did, my kids' childhood was around a household plagued with domestic abuse, and it was
Hmm.
emotional and physical uh abuse. And my ex-partner was a drug addict to the day he died, so they endured that instability, that craziness.
Hmm.
But once it was over. This is a season that ended and another season that began. And the more they grew up into their teenagehood, the teenage years that can be so confusing, I will be, it's like, okay, this is when open communications really needs to happen. And I really need them to know that I was here and this was the way it was before this happened. But now things are different. The season is different. We are in a different era of our lives, and it's time to start telling them much more about difficult times that were going on and why this was happening. And they totally understood. And to this day, I keep on little by little saying, okay, you remember this? Well, this is what was going on. And I want you to understand that. And of course, forgiveness is the heart of the matter. So the more you say, I am so sorry for this, and if they bring something up, oh, you remember this? Oh, well, you know what? That really hurt when he was 13 years old. And I was like, you know what, son? And whatever actions I didn't change a damn thing, right? And he's like, exactly. I am so sorry, son. He's 26 years old now, and he reminded me something that happened when he was 13 years old. And that's how profound of an effect had in him. So it's like, okay, I am going to say, I am sorry right here, right now for hurting you. And he took it very well. And this is another reason why we are so close to each other. So parents out there, please do yourself a favor and don't see your kids that they're below you, because in the long run, it's not going to help anybody. And your kids will just say, bye-bye. I don't need you in my life. So please, keep a balance with your life and the mistakes that we have, because we are human. This is unavoidable. Life is lifing. And we do mess up things, but there's always a time to say, hey, let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about what happened. Yeah, absolutely.
You said something earlier that I want to go back to. You said that the wounds were not your fault, but the healing is your responsibility. And I think that that's something that that phrase is like, it can harbor a lot of resentment, because you're like, you're right. The wounds were not my fault. Why is it my responsibility to do the work? Because healing is work. And there's a lot that you have to do. But when it comes to forgiving yourself for things that you went through, or your reactions to things, in the instance of your kid, whenever they're 13 and you do something and you don't remember what it was, but it clearly had an impact on them because they remember it 10 years to 13 years later, clearly had a huge impact on them. And so how do you go about saying, I did the best I could with the information that I had at the time, but I was wrong? How do you go about reconciling, like, I did my level best and it wasn't good enough necessarily? How do you go about kind of reconciling those thoughts?
I definitely think that being aware of the place that you were in your life at a certain time, on a certain age, is definitely a game changer in many ways, because the mindset, let's say my own story, the mindset that I had when I was 20 some more years old was never the mindset that I had in my 30s when I gave birth to my kids. And then after I gave birth to my kids, my mindset in my 40s, that I was going to a total transformation. I was transitioning into leaving leaving this man that he was my abuser. I was definitely going into a whole different season of my life of, yes, these wounds have really taken me down for a very long time, and they are open, or they are hardly starting to heal. But it is my responsibility to change the narrative once and for all. And it was definitely my responsibility to get out of my comfort zone. And comfort zone doesn't mean that you're comfortable there. Comfort zone means that it's a habit, that you're used to a pattern and you don't know how to get out of that pattern. And whether it is a pattern of emotional and physical abuse that I was used to since I was a little girl, it was just that the face changed over and over, from my father's violent, tragic passing, to my mother's violent tendencies, to my aunts, to my uncles, to my cousins, to siblings. The whole 9 yards, and the face just kept on changing. Just the situation was redundant over and over and over. And in my 40s, that's when I went into, I came into a realization that I said, okay, enough with my secrets, enough with my silence, enough with my pain and suffering on my own. It's time to get the support. I got the support. I never looked back. But definitely my healing was my biggest job, and the most important investment that we do is the one on ourselves, and growing and doing better for ourselves. Because when we do things better for ourselves, doing better, putting ourselves first is not selfish. It's not being entitled. It's not being arrogant. It's a beautiful thing, because when you take care of yourself, everything falls into place. Everything will follow. Oh my goodness. In many instances, it's like, damn, if I only did all this job when I was in my 30s, what would have happened? But these are questions that the answer will never be there. And all I hear from my beloved sister is like, you know what? That was not the time.
Yeah.
When you went through these things and these changes, that is when was the time. And that's that. That's all there's to it. Don't overanalyze it. Don't over question it, because you will never find the answer, and it'll take you down, and you don't need that. You have the tools to make it better and go forward rather than go backwards. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, we talked about at the beginning, you do a lot of volunteer work. You support survivors of sexual violence, and you also support animals in need. So what have those experiences taught you about resilience and the healing process?
Definitely starting with animals. Definitely with the no-kill shelter. These beautiful beings, you adopt animals, and they go, it doesn't matter how much suffering and pain, abuse, reject, neglect these animals go through. You just show them some love, and they will give love back. And to me, that's resiliency. To me, that is loving unconditionally. We got so much to learn from animals. And when it comes to learning what real love is, it's so important to pay attention to our pets, because we are their human companions. That is for sure. That's how I see it. I am the human companion, and you are the princess or the king or the prince of the house. That is for sure. And they gave us back something that is the most precious possession we can have, and it's their love, their companionship, that undeniable bond that is unbreakable. To me, that is resilience. To me, that's persistence. And especially when we adopt animals that we just don't know where they have been, they either have been abandoned, abused. Our beloved, because she will always be our beloved. She passed away 2.5 years ago, and all we know from the dog is that the human companion went to prison, and the dog was put in the shelter, and nobody knows anything else. Every time I took a broom to sweep, she will be petrified, terrified. It's like, okay, she was abused by a broom. Definitely. Who knows what happened? I don't know. We will never know. But little by little, I kept giving her love and attention, and sitting down with her with broom on hand. It's like nothing is going to happen, but she will be shaking in terror, but still she persisted. She was resilient. She still stayed and loved us no matter what. To me, that is pure persistent and resilient. And at the Inner Truth Project, this beautiful platform for sexual violence survivors, these individuals, because it's women and men as well, that is another epitome of persistence, resiliency, and being a pure survivor. People that they want to do better for themselves, they want to heal, and the services that are offered in this amazing place, it goes from yoga, psychotherapy, love, starting to find a way to love yourself again, love and embrace your bodies again after being violated of that very important and oh my God, this vital self-respect area of our lives. I am a survivor of sexual assault, being sexually assaulted repeatedly, different phases and in different eras of my life. And coming to terms to love myself again, it took a lot of work, dedication, persistence, resilience, not giving up, understanding that you can step into your power, say no, say it out loud, say it that I am a survivor, I got this, I no harm will come to me, no danger will come to me, and the triggers will always be there, and there will be things that will take you straight back to that memory, but you are resilient, you are persistent, and you are a survivor, and this is why we are here. So to me, those very two powerful platforms, I mean, to me, I put them as a combo because of the unconditional love that an animal can give to a stranger in the midst of so much pain and hurt and abandonment. And here we go with sexual assault survivors being willing to speak up, tell their stories, so others that live in silence, like I did for many decades of my life, can relate and say, hey, I am not alone and I got this. Very, very important, very profound.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that there are any common challenges that people face whenever they are dealing with chronic mental illness, and how do you help them work through it?
Definitely when I work in two different facilities for drug addiction and alcohol abuse. I was doing massage therapy there for 3 years, and there's a lot of mental illness going on, a lot of PTSD, a lot of veterans from the armed forces were there with alcoholism issues, and the root cause is not really the alcohol, is whatever they went through with their traumatic experiences. And the thing that I have done the most with, I mean, tens of thousands of people that I have worked with, that they come from chronic mental illnesses, is that don't be ashamed of where you come from. Thank goodness, and I can say this because I come from an era where anything mental illness, whether it was chronic or not, it was taboo, it was demonized. Here we go again. Shh, you don't talk about that. Was a thing that was never talked of. And fast forward to this day, still there's a lot of work to do, but a lot has been done. And it is much more in the open. It's not as demonized as it was before. And this is something that to me is just phenomenal. I am so happy to see it. I am so happy to see that people are communicating more with each other and not seeing themselves as less than anybody else just because I have depression, just because I have stress, anxiety, PTSD. I have PTSD, for crying out loud. And I had postpartum depression with both of my kids. And this is something that it is real. Postpartum depression, it takes us to a very deep rabbit hole, and help is there for us to understand why is this happening, where is this coming from. And same thing with other mental illnesses. For example, I'm gonna give you the example of my daughter. My daughter is 23 years old. She is an engineer. She is extremely successful in her professional life. She went to college. She graduated with honors. Oh my God, the whole shenanigans. Wow, this girl has everything going on with her. My daughter has chronic depression and anxiety. And she goes to psychotherapy. And this is the thing, her mental illness is not stopping her from doing what she is doing best, from getting the help that she so very much needs and deserves. And we talk about it openly as parent and daughter, and it's a beautiful thing. And this is the beauty of mental illness not being taboo anymore, mental illness is not being demonized anymore, that this is something that happens to much more people that we may even begin to think of. And since, unfortunately, since the pandemic, this just had to be, I mean, it was an open door for people to either talk about it, address it, because horrible things did happen with so much isolation. My daughter was a pure example of that. She has suicidal tendencies during the pandemic because she was a very young lady locked in a dorm in Georgia, not going to class, not seeing anybody in person. She had to be there because she was working for the college. So it took her on a downhill spiral. And she stepped forward and she came to me and she said, Mom, I am not feeling well and this is what's happening. It's like, well, this is what you need to do. Please do it. I cannot do it for you. But remember, you're not alone. And this is the progress that has been made. It's the life is about progress, not perfection. But I am so amazed in such good ways that how mental health is addressed now from what it was before. And the difference is from the moon to the earth.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I can attest to that. Yep.
Yeah. And I had postpartum depression as well with my second, who was born in 2013. And this is something that I talk about a lot. Generally on other people's podcasts. We don't talk about it a lot on this podcast just because it's not necessarily about me. But it's one of those things that, you know, looking from how it was handled even in 2013, which was not that long ago, just a decade ago, to how it's handled now when someone has postpartum depression, it's night and day. And from 2013 to when my oldest was born in 2006, another night and day difference. And it's like going, you know, just keep going back, because the further you go back, the worse it was dealt with. And the further we get, the better and better it is, because people are talking about it.
Absolutely.
People are being open about it, and people are being honest about what helped them and what didn't help them, and those kinds of things. So yeah, talking about it makes a huge difference. And again, that goes back to those relationships with your kids too, where you are open and honest with them, and that means that they can be open and honest with you. That is so critical.
Yes, without a doubt, definitely. And it's just like you said, it's like you go back to 2013 and then go back to 2006. That was not so long ago.
Nope.
Can you imagine going 30, 40 years back, 50 years back? I'm 59 years old. I'm going on 60 next year. And it's like, this is something that I've been seeing my entire natural life. And from what it was, the horrors of what it was before and how it is now, there's a massive amount of progress that has been done, and I am so grateful and thankful for this every single day. I mean, nobody has an idea of how good this is getting, and I mean, and how much openness, especially the open communication and people talking about it more openly with more freedom and saying, hey, I am still a powerhouse, but I have mental illness. I got these things going on, and I'm getting the help that I so very much deserve and need. It's a beautiful thing. I'm so happy about it. Definitely. It's a pure joy in here. Definitely.
Absolutely. Now, and I know I keep talking about it, but you wear a lot of hats. You do a lot of things. You're volunteering, you're doing your work, you're a mom, like all these things. So with such a wide range of commitments, how do you balance caring for others while still taking care of yourself?
Definitely, my planner is my life. I plan my life. I am not kidding you. I plan my time with my husband. I plan my time for myself. I go to bed late. I get up early. To me, 6, 7 hours of sleep. That is, I mean, to me, I'm a person of habit and consistency. And when we make a schedule, I'm a schedule person. Okay. And this I learned with hard work and dedication as well, because if I wanted to wear all of these hats, deliver with excellence and integrity to all of these people and deliver to myself, I have to plan around this. And to me, the first What happens? What do we have control over more than anything during the day? What we do at the beginning of the day and what we do at the end of the day. Whatever happens during the day, even if we have a plan, that's another story of how the outcome can be. But definitely, I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day. I do my prayer. I exercise gratitude for the simplest things that I have in life, for the best things I have in life. I do some meditation. I have a great teacher of mine that he says praying is talking to God and meditation is listening to God. So I do them both. Is an excellent tool to be in a calm state as much as possible. Calm is a superpower, people. Remember that. And after that, I go to the gym or I go outside or I go to the beach and I do my physical activity because physical activity is vital for quality of life. It doesn't matter what kind of physical activity you do. If you have a doggy, you take your doggy out for a nice walk 3 times a day for at least 15 to 20 minutes. And that's the best double whammy that we can have. Taking the dog out for exercise and us exercising with a beautiful dog. So that is one of the things when we have our beloved, I used to take the dog out for walks a lot. So I'm really very much into physical activity. I'm a Zumba teacher. And this is something that I love, that I do it for fun. And the best thing is like, okay, I get paid for it. Hell yeah, bring it. So I do a lot of physical activity and definitely I schedule my time with my husband. I schedule my time for my rest. And since I wear so many hats, I definitely schedule my time accordingly so I can take rest before continuing with my day. Here right now is 10:41 p.m. As long as I am done here, I'm going to go rest. I took my shower. I am ready to go to bed immediately after this. Go do my prayer, my meditation, gratitude, bedtime. And definitely it works wonders. The one thing that I do is eat earlier my dinner. So my digestive system is not in full function because when
Yeah.
the digestive system is in full function and you eat late, you won't be able to fall asleep, especially with women in menopause like myself. Okay. So just, being aware and very mindful of how we schedule our time is very important. So I'm definitely a scheduled person. I don't go anywhere without my planner. And yes, I'm old school, so yes, I have it all in a book. So planning my day, planning my week, I plan a week ahead and I go accordingly and I go around all of these things that I do. So yes, I find beautiful harmony. And yeah, some days can be, it's like, wow, this is a little too much, but it's definitely the minimum. I always find time, especially having that time that is very important. You gotta have time for faith, fitness, family, fortune, and fun, definitely. And to me, time with family is equally important as everything else that I do. And time for myself, for my alone time, me, myself, and I, is vital for my own quality of life. So I can relax and really disconnect from all of my surroundings, having my alone time. They say my beach time that's me. I get up at 6:15 in the morning and I go to the beach. Nobody comes with me. That is my alone time right there. Very important so I can take a good breather and connect with myself and then go on with my time, definitely. And next week I'm going on vacation with my husband. So that's another way to just disconnect. It's very important to find that harmony with work, life, family, your friends, the people that you love, networking with so many people because I see a lot of people in a weekly basis. And definitely finding that time is imperative. But you know what? When we want to do something, we will find the time no matter what.
Yeah. Yep.
That's for
True.
sure. Yep. Mhm.
Now, are you
Yep.
is it like a bullet journal type planning, or do you buy a planner where it's got each day and that kind of thing? What kind of planner are you?
Yeah, I buy a planner that have each day, and then
Okay.
on each day starts at 6 o'clock in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and it ends at after 9 o'clock at night. And this is on half-hour blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So I use a lot of the Pomodoro effect is in 25-minute blocks that in 25 minutes you can do a lot.
Yep.
So I use a lot the 25-minute Pomodoro effect, and it's really, really effective. And the thing, this planner is from Freedom Mastery. So this planner, it has blocks for your gratitude, your meditation, exercise, and to put whatever else that is important for your daily life, but for yourself. And
Nice.
then going on with everything else that is done during the day. But yeah, it's a phenomenal planner. I've been using it for over 3 years already, and it's really, really effective. It helps to keep me on track
Yeah.
with the things that I want to do. Yeah,
Yeah. You
absolutely.
got to find what works for you, 100%.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Remember, your journey is yours, and
Hmm.
definitely what works for you, that's what matters. But I have a mentor that he says when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So do yourself a favor, start planning your life a little bit more, and you will be more effective without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a
Hmm.
great community question. This one comes from Bite Mark. She would like to know, what is your favorite poem?
My, you know what? There's a my favorite poem. I don't even remember the name. I got your heart in my heart. It's a beautiful poem. I haven't read it in a long time, actually. I am much more into phrases, important phrases that
Hmm.
famous people say um, during in different times in life.
Well, we might have lost Blanca, but I think we had a really, really good conversation. So we were kind of just missing the life hack question and the magic moment question. I hope that everyone enjoyed the conversation that we were able to have. We got most of the way through it, and I mean, Blanca's story is just so powerful, and she's been through a lot in her life. So I hope that y'all enjoyed the conversation. That wraps up today's episode of Even Tacos Fall Apart. Chronic illness and mental health are so intertwined, and I think Blanca's story really highlights how much strength it takes just to get through the day sometimes. If you're dealing with a chronic condition, you're not imagining how hard it is. You're not weak, you're not overreacting. What you're experiencing is real, and it makes sense that it would impact your mental health. One of the biggest takeaways from this conversation is that healing, whether physical, mental, or emotional, is work. It's frustrating, exhausting, and unfair that so much of the effort falls on the person who's already struggling. But like Blanca said, trauma isn't your fault, but healing is your responsibility. That doesn't mean doing it alone. It doesn't mean pushing through without support. It means finding what actually helps, setting boundaries, and allowing yourself the same compassion you would offer to a friend. Whether it's seeking therapy, advocating for yourself at the doctor's office, or just allowing yourself to rest without guilt, you deserve care. You deserve understanding. And you deserve a life that isn't just about survival. If this episode resonated with you, or if you know someone who could use this conversation, please share it. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Ratings, reviews, and comments also make a huge difference in helping more people find the show. So if you have a minute, I'd love it if you left a review on your favorite podcast platform or wherever you're listening right now. Thank you for spending this time with me. You are not alone in this. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time.